We really need a great Flash movie, and here is why. So, The Flash is one of the best and probably one of the most underrated DC superheroes of all time. In fact, if you guys know me, if you know me from LewisFilms, my favorite superhero is Spider-Man, of course, but very closely second is The Flash. And I never really get to talk about The Flash that much, because obviously I mainly run a Spider-Man channel, but obviously with this new channel, LewisFilms Plus, I get to talk about more wider Marvel DC superheroes. And The Flash is something that I've wanted to cover because The Flash is one of my favorite superheroes of all time, and he's really underrated. And I think it's really criminal that The Flash hasn't had a great superhero movie in live action pretty much ever. There have been adaptations of The Flash on the silver screen and in animation before, such as John Wesley Shipp's Flash TV show from the 90s. We've also had Grant Gustin's Flash TV show on CW. We've also had animated movies featuring The Flash, like multiple Justice League movies, including one where the Flash was the main character, of course, Flashpoint Paradox, adapting the very famous comic book storyline that most people, if you aren't really that deep into Flash lore, will probably know the Flash from. Then we've also got the very controversial and, quite frankly, very disappointing Flash movie that came out last year as well. But apart from that, we haven't really had that many representations of the Flash in the wider general media other than the comic books. However, the Flash's comic books are some of the best DC stories that I have ever read, and it's a really big shame that we've never actually been able to get adaptations of these in big Hollywood movies before. And really, the only story that's ever really been adapted is the Flashpoint Paradox in the animated movie, and very loosely adapted in the live action movie that came out last year. It was also adapted in the CW show, and yes, this is probably the Flash's most popular story, as I alluded to at the start of the video. However, the Flash as a character, especially Barry Allen and even Wally West, even Jay Garrick, have so many more stories and so many more cool and interesting concepts to offer live action movies and TV shows that just simply haven't even been touched upon. Like, for example, one story that I didn't think was done justice in the CW show, but I really enjoyed from the Flash Rebirth run, was the story of Godspeed. I thought Godspeed was such an interesting villain to really spice things up. Like, obviously we've had speedster villains before in the comics. We think to the likes of the Reverse Flash, who in many people's eyes has actually been overdone in the comics before, but Godspeed offered something a little bit different. There was almost this demonic kind of aura about him, that he was this unstoppable force that Barry had to overcome. And I really liked that aspect of the Rebirth comics, but I didn't really feel like it was touched upon and done that well in the CW show. But this is just another example of a villain and a story that I think could be really cool on the big screen for them to be tackling. Not to mention that the Flash has one of the biggest rogues galleries in any comic book character's history. The only other comic book characters that have an extensive rogues gallery like the Flash does are the likes of Spider-Man and Batman. Now, Spider-Man and Batman, of course, have some of the most recognizable rogues galleries in the history of comics, but when it comes to just the depth and the absolute pure scale of rogues that are included in some of the stories, the Flash by far has one of the biggest. You think to the likes of Reverse Flash, Captain Cold, Zoom, The Thinker, and many more. And also, even though the Flashpoint Paradox is probably one of the most, if not the most recognizable Flash story of all time, it's not like he doesn't have other iconic stories that could be explored in potential future movies. I think to the likes of The Trial of the Flash, which could be a very heartbreaking film, maybe even set in James Gunn's universe. We've also got A Flash of Lightning. Also, like I mentioned before, Flash Rebirth is a really good story as well. Born to Run is a great story, potentially, if they were trying to tackle Wally West as the main Flash. There are so many great Flash stories that have so much untapped potential to be in a film or maybe even a show in the future. And I really do hope that James Gunn can deliver a really great Flash movie, because I think he is one of the most untapped and one of the most underrated characters in all of DC's history. And this isn't exclusive just for the Flash as well. I'd say a lot of these points also apply to the likes of the Green Lantern. Obviously, Green Lantern is a huge member of the Justice League and was a big part of the DC animated universe, but when it comes to kind of the general public, general media, and live action movies, the Green Lantern has been done really, really dirty. Almost as dirty as the Fantastic Four in some senses, because the Fantastic Four, as we've mentioned in other videos before, are, well, the founding family, right? They are literally the definition of superhero families. They are one of the most popular superhero teams of all time. However, the general audiences don't really see it that way because their movies were really bad. In fact, nowadays, the likes of Iron Man, Captain America, they're all more popular than the Fantastic Four, and the same kind of goes for Green Lantern as well. And if it weren't for the CW show, the Flash would kind of be in that exact position too. Luckily for the Flash, he isn't as worse off as Green Lantern, but with a few more bad adaptations of this character, he could definitely find himself in that position, which is why we really, really need a great Flash movie to sort of revive the character in the eyes of the general public and show the general public how cool this character is. Not just the Flash in general as a speedster, but the character of Barry Allen is such an emotionally rich character. I just feel like there needs to be a live action movie about him that's just good, man. Grounded, good, heartfelt, uses great villains, has great writing. Man, I need this so much. But let me know in the comment section down below, if there was to be a Flash movie, who would be the villain and how would you write it? Let me know in the comment section down below. Also, if you like this video, then you may like these videos on screen as well. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care and peace.